Well, President-elect Donald Trump announced last month that he intends to declare a national emergency and use the U.S. military in some form to assist in his plans for mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. Joining us now to go over how illegal immigration will be addressed here in Oklahoma is Attorney General Gentner Drummond. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
I want to start off first. If you could give us an overview on what the undocumented population looks like in the state.
So we have undocumented people in Oklahoma that are not committing crimes, but we have over 10,000 that are. And what's been most shocking to me is the Biden administration's policy of catch and release. And I've been present on many drug busts when we're shutting down illegal marijuana grows, where we arrest the leaders, the Sinaloan leaders or the Chinese syndicate crime organization members, but yet the 6 to 10 workers that are out there tending to the plants that are also here illegally. When we call ICE, they say, please give them a report to show up to Kansas City or Denton, Texas, and check in. And that's effectively catch and release. And then 2 weeks later, we will see the same individuals at the next illegal marijuana plant. And so to just abate illegal crime in Oklahoma, we have to enforce our immigration laws.
Okay, following President-elect Trump's announcement here, Governor Kevin Stitt made a post saying Oklahoma's getting ready. Operation Guardian is what he says that we are working on. Talk about how your office is working with the governor and what preparations are underway right now.
So presently in the United States, there are 1.4 million individuals on a ICE detention ticket. And if we start just there, these are people already determined to be in the United States illegally. They've already been adjudicated. Their rights have been, due process has been recognized, and yet they are living among us. And those 1.4 million need to go back, many of whom are engaged in illegal activities in the state of Oklahoma. So it's really an issue of public safety. We have illegals in the state of Oklahoma committing crimes. They need to be catched and deported.
Okay, so when we talk about that, what does that look like? I know the governor mentioned, and you've talked about also people who have those ICE detention holds on them. If we have people in jail who are undocumented, what does that process look like after you work on getting them deported? Then what happens next as far as addressing other people?
Right, so we have many illegals in our prison system, committed murder, rape, other heinous crimes. We're not talking about releasing them. They need to serve their time. Now, should we send an invoice to Guatemala or Costa Rica from which they come? Yes. Mainland China? Yes. They should bear that burden. But we have to keep our community safe. So we're not going to release violent criminals, but those that have been detained, we're going to deport.
Okay. Now, as we talk about these mass deportation plans, some experts say Trump could face an uphill battle. Here in Oklahoma, we've already seen a court block House Bill 4156 earlier this year. I know that you have appealed that injunction. How confident are you that these larger plans for mass deportations and even Operation Guardian, that those won't be held up in courts as well?
I think what we'll find across the board with the Trump administration, it's pro-oil and gas, pro-deportation and enforcement of our borders. So a lot of the lawsuits that Oklahoma presently is fighting, that I'm fighting in my office, the Department of Justice or the Environmental Protection Agency, they'll reverse course. And they'll say, no, in fact, that is the correct interpretation of the law. And the states like Oklahoma should be able to partner with the federal government to deport those among them who are committing crimes and are here illegally.
Now, prior to these plans and before President Trump takes office again next month, what has your office's role been when it comes to illegal immigration, and what do you think it'll look like moving forward?
So what we do presently is we don't have standing to take that illegal immigrant who's working in an illegal operation and deport them. I think that in the future we'll be able to then detain them and ultimately deport them. If you're going to come into the state of Oklahoma, don't commit a crime. You commit a crime, I'm going to find you and I'm going to deport you.
Now, are there any concerns about getting more people detained and put into our jails where some people say that jails are already kind of over capacity and they're full and they don't have enough staff? What does that look like?
I think the message is going to solve the problem. Presently under the Biden administration, people that wanted to come into Oklahoma illegally knew that they could with absolute freedom. And so the porosity of this border it will close. the border will close, people will know not to come into the United States because we'll find them and deport them. And what I think that the viewers need to understand is the drug problem in Oklahoma is almost 99% attributable to Chinese syndicated crime members and Sinaloa cartel members that are working in concert to bring fentanyl and other illicit drugs into our state. And these are the illegal immigrants that I am targeted, and I will find and I will detain.
Okay, will there be any humanitarian efforts to address mass deportations?
I think absolutely, we have to. I mean, we're all human, we're gonna do that. But if you're coming in, intentionally coming into our country as an illegal immigrant, you know you're on notice. You need to go back home now while you can control your destiny.
Mass deportations, this is a really big undertaking. I think another question people may have is, what does funding look like for an operation like this?
Right, we already have law enforcement that are out there. We already are detaining to determine whether they're committing a crime or not. We just will simply now take them into custody and then deport.
Okay. And finally, I do want to ask you one final question. This is unrelated to this. Let me get to that if my producer will scroll up to this. This is about the execution of Kevin Underwood. You posted about this just 10 minutes ago. So I'm reading this for the first time right now. We were in the show about the 10th Court of Appeals ruling to allow a clemency hearing. Kind of go over what happened here.
Let me
this
help
is for
you.
Kevin Underwood. Yes.
Right, so you know, of the men on death row, none is as heinous as Underwood. And we had our pardon and parole membership dropped down to 3, and they struck the pardon and parole hearing. And I've fought them to put it back on, and then Underwood read the script and appealed to the 10th Circuit. Last night late, the 10th Circuit, in fact, ruled for me and says, proceed with the pardon and parole hearing. It will occur tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. He will be then, more likely than not granted recommendation of clemency. Then it'll be to the governor and then off to the death chamber in January, late December, and I'll be present.
Okay, and this is happening tomorrow, right? Okay. All right. Well, Attorney General Gentner Drummond, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for updating us on everything happening when it comes to illegal immigration in the state, and also helping me out with that final question there. Really appreciate your time, and keep us updated with anything.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you.